depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the 10-minute website. I'm Bunny Tharp with Quark Marketing, and we're really excited about hosting this series that was requested by you, our customers and prospects. So we're really excited to be able to bring it to you. We are going to keep the lines muted, but be sure to use the chat button to submit questions anytime they come up throughout the presentation. Martin will answer those at the end of his presentation. So, Martin is one of our QuarkXPress power users. He's very familiar with the software, has been using it for a number of years. He, of course, is also a marketing, PR, and branding expert. So he brings a lot of expertise to these webinars, not just from the software perspective. So again, we're delighted that all of you are here today. And without further ado, I will turn the program over to Martin.
Thank you very much, Bunny. It's great to be here again. So today we're going to look at one of three things about websites for QuarkXPress. So what I want to show today is a really simple, do it in 10 minutes. It's got to be done now. It's got to be done right. And this is going to be also an introduction to the concept of using Flex websites in QuarkXPress. So next time we're going to go much more in depth. So if you think this is way too simple, that's fine. But I think there will also be people who are saying, well, I'm still a bit confused. So we have got what we're going to show in a few moments is a video already recorded, which you can then also download with the assets later to work through step by step. Now, one person asked, should I have QuarkXPress open to do this? I would say, yeah, go for it. Even if you can't follow everything, you can at least see where things are on the screen. I hope that Zoom is going to allow us to be in enough focus. Sometimes it's a bit blurry, but you will be able to get the whole video later on. It's about 15 minutes of the tutorial part, and then I'll come back to me being live, so you'll get me not live. But the three aspects, or the three kinds of websites I want to talk about. Now, these are using Flex. So Flex is a technology where you create a website and then it changes its shape based on what you're doing. So this is the website I'm going to create in the tutorial. It's very simple. I haven't really populated it, but you can see that as I move it, it changes its shape and it will adjust to iPhones, iPads, anything else you like. Now, that's great, but if you want to make the highest possible quality website, then doing it, in a sense, the original Quark way, when Quark first introduced HTML publications, by doing different sizes of layouts for different devices, will actually give you a better result, because it's not compromising. But Flex is now, I think most of the internet is Flex-based, but if you want to go even further, then doing it that way is the way to do it. We're not going to talk about that, but I want you to be aware of it. I talked to two guys in the States on Monday who've been doing this for years, and the stuff that they produce is just absolutely amazing. So the three levels of websites I want to talk about. So today, we're going to look at using a QuarkXPress template to produce the website you've just seen in about 10 minutes. So the tutorial will run about 15 because I do a lot of talking, I can't stop. But really, you can put together, say, a 4-page website, or indeed a website which is all one page where the links drop you down the page. They're very popular these days, which is fully Flex and which is uploaded to the web in about 10 minutes. And that's for when the client walks in and says, your brochure you did for me is absolutely brilliant, but there's a problem, which is the brochures are going to go out today, but the website it links to is not available until next month. What can I do? And you say, I can solve that for you. Let's take our assets from the brochure. Let's take other information you've got, like telephone numbers and so on, and your email addresses. And we'll put them in, and we're going to put something together which looks like your looks like your website in about 10 minutes. Now, you can do all of this with WordPress as well. And in fact, about a third of all sites on the web are WordPress, and half of all the content management system sites are WordPress based. But it'll take you at least 2 hours to get to the same stage. Now, I used to do lots of WordPress sites for people because everybody said, oh, I want to be able to update it myself. I do it in a content management system. I can update it myself. I won't come back to you. So we'd spend a couple of hours installing, finding a theme, always a problem, customizing it, finding out it couldn't be customized properly, going back, finding a different one, paying for a theme. And then when it's all ready, and the client finally started updating it, they said, oh, this is way too difficult. I'll just come back to you for the updates. So what we're going to show you will require you to do the updates, but actually most content management systems, despite the fact they promise otherwise, have the same thing. So let me get on to the tutorial. Sorry, I was going to talk about the 3 things. So number 1 is the 10-minute website. Number 2, which will be next time, is a much deeper level of website using your assets, not using a template, creating something from scratch. And that's going to be more challenging. And I'd say even if all this is obvious to you, I would still follow through this tutorial because you'll learn some things on the way. The third session, we're going to talk about wireframing or preparing a major website. So the last big website I did was for Birmingham Children's Hospital. It cost about $400,000 that the hospital didn't pay for it. We got a commercial sponsor to pay for it. And we spent a whole year just going through wireframes and templates and ideas. And QuarkXPress can be your best friend in contributing in that way, so that when the designers finally, and I'm talking about web designers, finally code it, it's the last stage, they code what you asked for, not what they thought would be nice for them to do. And that breakdown between the specification and the coding is all too common in big projects. And at the end of the day, the guys said, well, here it is. You've got it or you don't want it. So this week, the template-based site, although it will look like your material. Next time, a much deeper thing, and then the third time we'll talk about using Quark for prototyping. So hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to press the button now, and off we go. We do not appear to be having any after that. I've just got a message from, okay, here we go. Okay, that appears to be stopped. So it was all working on the test, and now it's doing its thing. Try that. So, creating a 10-minute website. I'm just going to close some of these, because we'll come back to these in a minute. What you need is QuarkXPress 2022, a web browser such as Safari, Chrome or Firefox, and that is enough to build and test your website. But if you want to host it, and actually have it online, you need web hosting, you need a domain name. For example, I've created quark.martinturner.org.uk for this tutorial. That's just a subdomain on an existing website. And you need an FTP uploader, best, or there will be a file manager with your hosting package, but it's less useful. So let's show you that. This is an FTP uploader. It just allows me to drag files from my computer onto a website. So we'll come back to that in a minute, but let's go straight to the chase. So new project, digital, not print, flex, not fixed. Now fixed actually can give you a better result if you're willing to put the hours in. But for working quickly and for instant compatibility, Flex is the way to go. The rest of these you can leave as they are. Even though the grid is 1280 pixels and the maximum width is 1920 pixels, which is full HD, it doesn't matter, and we'll see why not in a moment. So let's do OK. Well, let's have 4 pages, and I'll explain why in a minute. So that creates, and you can see I've got the Flex page builder open here, and we're going to open some more in a minute, but let's start with this. Now, for the 10-minute website, we're going to be using templates. Now, you might say, these templates don't look like anything I want. They're all very fussy and not on brand. That's okay. Let's just drag this one onto the file. But first, I want to show you what it looks like on different devices. So the same template is going to appear differently on different devices depending on the size of that device. And that's what Flex is all about. Flex is a way to make your design automatically conform to the device you're using it on. But we'll come back now to this one. I'm going to go for one that you might think, well, that's really fussy, I don't want that one. Actually, it's really easy to use. So here it is. Now, I'm going to close that for a second. Just come back to 2 things. I'm going to go to Style Sheets, and I'm going to come to the Quark stock photography, because I want something to change, replace that pizza image with. And although you don't have to do this in this order, I think it actually is really helpful to change that image first, because that is staring you in the face. And in fact, the thing which makes the biggest difference to any kind of template is what image you're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a website for a band's album, and the band is called Oxygen Sky. The album is going to be called As Seen from Mars. Now, in a minute, we're just going to conform these fonts to what we want. But before we do that, let's go to page layout, and we're going to specify our pages. So I'm going to right click or control click on a Mac, page properties. Now, the first page must be called index.html. That is part of the web. And if you don't do that, it won't work. But the page title will be home usually. So page name, index.html, you can see that there. But the page title can be anything you want, but usually it's home. Or you can call it by the name of the website, Oxygen Sky, and then it's As Seen from Mars. You can have any punctuation you like in the page title, but for the page name, just keep it to letters and numbers and dashes. Okay. Now, the next one I want to do, I'm going to say this is going to be a page called Band and About Oxygen Sky. And again, right click or control click for page 3, which will be the album, As Seen from Mars. And the final one is going to be contact. Don't use capital letters if you can avoid it. It won't stop it working, but it's deprecated. So contact us. Okay, and I'm just going to go to those pages, and I'm going to do a different template. So I won't populate these fully because I don't want to show you everything several times. But to do this, I've actually got a palette set which I've created called Flex, which will bring up all the palettes I need for Flex editing. So here they are. And you can see we've got the Flex Objects Browser. We're going to look at that in a minute. Flex Layout Blocks. We're not going to do this week. We're going to do this next time. But for my second page, I maybe want something a little bit more informative. And so I'm going to go with this one. And then for the third page, come back to my page layout again, which I removed when I did my Flex palettes. Again, something else. I might want to have that, and finally, I might want to have this. Now, they all look different from each other, but they will not in a moment. So let's come back to index and see where we are. Now, I'm going to go to style sheets. And what's crucial here is that Quark's already prepared the style sheets for you in a way you've only got to change 3 of them. So if I come down to body and I'm going to just edit that, you'll see that it's based on no style. It's got a font I don't want, Monster. I have no idea what that is. I didn't buy that. I'm going to have Lato. That's what I use. I'm going to have Lato medium. And if I now look at body small, then you'll see it's already conformed itself to that same font because it is based on body. And these starred ones are the ones that things are based on. So same for H1, H1 DM serif text, haven't got a clue what that is. I'm going to go to Roboto Slab and I'm going to go to Roboto Slab regular. Because I've used it frequently, it's at the top of the font menu. That's just a feature of QuarkXPress. So, okay, and now H4, and again, Oswald, not a clue, but this time we're going to go for Roboto Slab. And actually we'll go for Lato Light. And there we are. And you'll see that suddenly everything has started changing. Now this here was bespoke text, so I'm going to change that to a font of my choice. Let's come down here. And not Alex Brush, looks like it might be anything. But what about Righteous Regular? I've no idea where I got that from, but here it is. And there we are. Now, over here, we've got a button, and I don't want to have it book now. I want to have it order now. But you see that if you try to type on that, it doesn't really work. Now, why is this? Because Flex works in a fundamentally different way from print. And although it looks like it's going to be like print, and it's much easier to make it like print, it isn't the same thing. So what I've got here is custom HTML. I want to get rid of that. I'm just going to delete that. So I'm going to control click or right click, delete, and now come back to this text box, which I can now just edit directly. Now, what that's also done is it means that it no longer has a rollover on it, which isn't going to look as great. Oh, let's also change this background image. We don't want anything to do with pizzas. We're just going to paste that in there. You can do anything with these boxes, and you can create other boxes as well, but we won't do that right now because we're just working to the template. So let's go to home. We want to have that as a hyperlink to itself, in fact. So on hyperlinks over here, I'm going to press plus, and the type is page. Let's type home and page index. And then I'm going to create another one for I want features, I want band, and in this case we're going to do type page band. Okay, give that a title, and the same thing, album plus type page album, and again link that to that page. And finally contact. 90% of people on websites are looking for contact details, and we'll call that contact, and we'll do page, and we will do contact. Now I can go through and conform all those other pages to what I need, but actually you'll see that the fonts have already been conformed. It's just a question of putting in the graphics I want and changing the colors. We're not going to do that right now because we'll just be reduplicating what we've done. But I want to do one more thing, and that's because remember I took away the HTML action from this. I just want to turn this into a button again. So button and hover state. I want the background color now to be black, RGB, and the foreground color will be this pink color. We can change that afterwards. And then the action is going to be go to page, not go to URL, but go to page. Leave article ID from web portal, and we're going to put that to page 3. That's it. Let's just test that one page with HTML page preview. It's at the bottom of the screen here. And we'll go to Safari. And there we are. And that page has now appeared. Look, this changes. Now, if I were to click on these, because it's a one-page preview, it's just going to go back to itself because it's only got one page to look at. So we could preview that by doing the whole layout. So come back here and we'll do preview, layout preview, or project. Let's do layout preview. This is going to preview it as an HTML5 publication, which is not quite the same, but it'll work just as well. Now, if I do that, it goes to that page with the album on it, which again, we didn't do that. So a couple more things. Layout, metadata. You want to type in your metadata here, oxygen sky, as seen from Mars. And the more of this you fill in, like with the keywords, album, music, those will go into what they call SEO, which means how Google is going to find it. So it's important to fill that in. So that's really important. So I'm just now going to export this. So export not an HTML5 publication, but it's HTML5. And I'm going to put this into this page. Now, it's offering to collect fonts. The answer's got to be yes, otherwise it won't work. But I need to make sure that the fonts I'm using are ones I'm either licensed to use or are free to use. Now, I'm actually using Google fonts for this. It's not a problem. But check your license agreement. Press OK. And that's now going to export those. And I'm going to go to the Finder now. And look, here they are. They've appeared in the directory I specified. And I'm going to just go to CyberDoc. You can see I did this before. I did a tryout. And I'm just going to drag these across to here. And it will show me transferring. Oh, it wants to replace them. I do want to replace them. And it'll show those transferring. And now if we go to Quark dot Martin Turner, already used it before, then here's that website. And if I go to band, it's going to that page because we didn't do any work on that page. I can go to album, or I can do order now. See how it just changes color there. And it'll go again to that thing. You can also have the page go to a lower point on the page, like I see a typo on that template, if you want an all one-page website. And those are quite popular these days. So using just the templates in just about 10 minutes, we've been able to construct a very simple website. We didn't conform all the parts, we didn't put the text in, but then I was talking a lot, and it would have been a lot quicker if I wasn't talking. We did explore a little bit the containers, and we're going to look at that in much more depth next week. But this is a really important learning point, is that Flex works by putting things inside other things. In fact, all of HTML does if you do it properly. And if you just put things next to each other, then it will work on some devices, but not on others. This is great for websites. If you try to make an email mailer this way, you need to test it a lot because email HTML is not the same as regular HTML. Well, so about the video quality, if you've been watching where the bandwidth is low, I'm afraid that Zoom blurs things, but we do have the full video available for you to download afterwards, and then you can slow it down and go through step by step. I think that says everything I wanted to say. You don't need to understand how Flex works in order to use it. You just need to be able to use it. So I want to hand over to Bunny now, and we can go to questions and see where we are. Because one of my difficulties with preparing this is getting the right level. Is it too easy? Is it too difficult? So over to you, Bunny.
Hey, Martin, thanks. Yes, and thanks everyone, because there were several inquiries throughout the presentation regarding the video quality. unfortunately, Zoom compresses, it degrades. But when we post the tutorial and later today, it should be much more crisp and clear for you. So wanted to just open this up to questions since we still have several minutes here with Martin. So want to open this up to the floor and those participants we have live. So please ask away. I am checking. So I do have a couple of questions here. So I think we need to clarify the Flex layout capabilities. Are those available to just QXP version 2022, or do these capabilities work in some of the prior versions?
So almost everything works in 2021. Earlier versions did not have Flex, but they still had the ability to create kind of flat websites, which I mentioned, which you can do to produce a much higher quality, although it's a lot more work. It's not going to be 10 minutes to produce a website which will then be compliant with all kinds of devices. So you'd have to check exact version numbers, but definitely 2021, I think 2019 possibly. Earlier than that, it was just the flat ones.
Okay, great. Couple of other questions are coming in now. Thanks, everybody. Does QuarkXPress have the capability to add slideshows, modal boxes, etc.?
You can do all kinds of things. All the features that are available in HTML publications, which was an earlier iteration, are available in Flex. So I just showed you the most basic things. Yes, you can definitely do slideshows, but with all web things, you've got to remember that just because you can does not mean that you should. So I can't train you on UX design, but it is worth Googling UX design. There are some basic rules of how to put a website together and what you should include. And over the last 10 years, with the demise of Adobe Flash, which was deprecated because Steve Jobs wouldn't allow it on iPhones, it drained batteries and was a security risk. But we've moved from Flash to HTML5, and things have really simplified. People are looking at much simpler websites now. They don't usually want to read blogs. They don't want your Facebook feed appearing. All these things can be done from within QuarkXPress. In fact, you can just link to any external HTML5 code that you like, but keeping it simple is really important.
Okay, great. We've got some more questions, Martin. Here we go. Can you import an Adobe Dreamweaver site into Quark?
You can't import a whole site. You can put in custom HTML. So let me just create a box here. I'm not actually on a Flex page here, but it might still work. So you can create a custom HTML box and you can put in any HTML code you want. So you could literally place or paste an entire Dreamweaver site there. But again, you've got to be careful with what you're doing. Also, if you're importing a non-Flex site from somewhere else, you wouldn't usually import a site. You might import a box or a small bit of code, a snippet, as where people call them. But if you're putting something which is non-Flex into Flex, then test and test and test, because many things will work great on your machine, but they won't necessarily work on the user's machine, which is the goal in the end.
Okay, next question. Are you able to edit the CSS once the website has been created, or would you need to make those changes back in the Quark file and re-upload?
You can edit everything. So you can edit the CSS, that's not a problem. My picture seems to have vanished, I'm not sure what's happened there, that's better. And in fact, the guys I was talking to on Monday have been producing websites for years using Quark and then editing all the CSS manually. And if you're a good CSS programmer, that might be an interesting thing to do. For the level we're working at today, I would say change it in Quark and re-upload it. That's by far the quickest. You don't want to get involved in editing CSS unless you're really good at that. I used to edit CSS, I used to edit PHP code and all kinds of things. And that's interesting, but in terms of producing a result right now, which will definitely work, I would say keep it simple, but you can do that.
Great, Martin, thanks. How can the Hamburger menu be implemented for sites displayed on smartphones?
The Hamburger menu is is two things. So one is it's a little 3 stripes. It's really a UX thing where people know that if there's 3 stripes, they can click on it and up will come a menu. Now, how you do that with Quark is probably a bit further than I wanted to go this time. Let me just get rid of that one. But you've got a range of interactions and buttons available over here. So there's a lot you can do. You can't do everything in QuarkXPress, but if you've got a bit of custom HTML as a snippet of a Hamburger menu, you can literally just paste that into Quark as custom HTML, and it will do whatever it does transparently from within the page. And that's actually how a lot of websites are programmed, that you don't want to create everything from scratch. And when I used to program websites from scratch, I'd go searching around the internet for JavaScript and whatever and just paste them in. You can do exactly the same thing here. So anything you've seen on any website can be done in QuarkXPress, but you need your menu first.
How many pages can you add on one site?
Whoa, I have absolutely no idea. Quark can upload thousands of pages. There isn't really a limit as far as I know. I'm sure there is a technical limit somewhere. But again, websites have been getting smaller and cleaner. If you want to have a 10,000 page website, I would say use a CMS, use WordPress, and you can create your template in QuarkXPress and then turn it into a WordPress website by using Pinegrow or a number of other editors, which will take any website and turn it into a WordPress website. But the more pages you've got, the more updating there will be. And ultimately, if you're the bottleneck, now, because that could be repeat business, which could be well worth it, but if you've got a very large and complex website, I would say that's what we're going to talk about in the third session, where this approach of using a template, or even next time's approach of programming it entirely in QuarkXPress, is going to fade in its usefulness as the number of pages goes up, because ultimately you want the person who's responsible for that page updating it, not you.
So someone is just starting out, so they saw that you could change the fonts. They're asking about changing the size, making the image larger, rearranging. Is the template fixed, or are you able to alter it, is basically the question.
You can move stuff around, you can change sizes, you can change everything you can change in QuarkXPress. But remember, you've got to respect the flex formatting. So I'm just going to create a project right now. I'm going to go to flex, thank you very much, and wait for that to happen. Of course, it's always slow when trying to do a demo. Okay, and I'm just going to take this particular, the top one, and if you then look at the Flex Object Browser, we showed that before. This shows how things are contained in other things. Everything in Flex has got to be contained in something. So when you start to change sizes, look at what you're changing. So you can see I can change that size there. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller, etc. But make sure you're changing the thing you want to change. You might be changing its container, which is going to do other things. So in that particular case, as opposed to the text overflowing out of the box, it's now coming off the box. You don't want that to happen. So as long as you respect the way in which Flex operates, using this Flex Object Browser, which I'm moving around the screen, then you can change absolutely everything. You can put pictures where text was, text where pictures was. You can change the box. You can put more boxes in. You can even chain these things, put one after the other on the same page, put one here. But you can't wrap them inside each other. So let's look at that one in the browser now. I'm just going to preview that. Again, always it takes longer on the demo, but here we are. So, and there you see you've got these two things stacked after each other. Yeah.
Can other software be used to complement QuarkXPress? I know the answer to that is yes, but Martin, I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, so once you've produced your code in QuarkXPress, as far as any piece of software is aware, it's just HTML5 code. And Quark produces good, clean code. So if you've got Dreamweaver or Pinegrow or any other proper editor, you can go in and change everything. If you're trying to use it with another kind of template-based system, that probably won't work because that only relies on its own templates. But Quark is producing code that any editor can actually work with. You can even work with it with a text editor, and if things go horribly wrong, that's what real programmers actually do.
Does Quark have available plugins for things such as adding YouTube videos, HTML5?
That's built in. So let me just come on here again, back to my screen. So let's go to window HTML5, and you see video here, and you simply make that into a video box, put your URL here, so look at where my mouse is, and it will link it to YouTube. Now, be careful with these URLs because it's the embedded URL, not the URL that YouTube gives you to share. That will not work. So you've got to go and see where it says source equals. So click the embed link, but then you've got to just take the web address which is in there.
What about doing e-commerce? Is that capability able to be added to Quark-produced websites?
Yes, you can. That's, again, using the custom HTML feature. So let's just come down to here. Let's say I wanted to put in, I've got an iframe or some way of embedding an e-commerce thing, or even something as simple as a PayPal box. All I've got to do is go to HTML5, go to custom HTML. Okay, it's going to delete the box's content, that's okay. And then I paste in whatever code my e-commerce provider gave me, and that will then appear in the formatting they gave you. Now, obviously, if you want to conform it to your brand, there may be some more work to be done there. And that might be when you start editing CSS.
What about implementing a smooth scroll on a web page?
A smooth scroll. You mean whether it's all like one page and you just kind of roll down? You just chain stuff and make the page very long, and then it will just scroll right down. Let's go back to this one we just did. So, sorry, that was not Safari. I want Safari. Okay, we didn't do that. But yeah, you just put a load of things in a row, one after the other, and you'll then scroll down it. You can even do it with parallax, which was a really popular effect about 4 years ago. It's gone out of fashion now. As with everything, I would say keep it simple.
Let's see. We've got a few other questions here. Give me just a second to sort through. The ability to convert to a QuarkXPress website to WordPress.
Right. WordPress is difficult and complicated. You could do it manually. I know people who do that. Pinegrow's got a droplet which you can purchase, and it's about $150, so it's not free, which will then do the conversion for you. And if you're going to do hundreds of these things, for example, if you're creating templates with QuarkXPress, that's a pretty good investment. I've got Pinegrow's regular program, which is an editor as well. But anybody who designs websites and works with WordPress can take your Quark website and change it. And that's what we're going to talk about in the third week, the third session rather.
And we did have some questions about that. So let me just take this opportunity to let folks know. The next session is about design-led websites. That is on May 12th. And then the next one in the series is wireframing, using QuarkXPress to wireframe enterprise websites. That is on June 2nd. You can find more information about these on our websites and register. So go to quark.com and then under About, go to the Events tab. And that's where you can find more information and register. That's also one of the places you'll be able to access today's recording. That will be there, as well as on our YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel links from the bottom of the Quark homepage. So I think that answers a couple of questions that we've had. Of course, the tutorial itself, the recording that Martin showed as the crux of this session, will also be posted clearly on our YouTube channel. We've got just a few more questions here. Someone says they're looking for a replacement for Adobe Muse. Can this do the same things?
I'm afraid I only used Adobe Muse for a bit. I'm pretty sure this does quite a lot more than Muse, but you'd really have to get somebody who's experienced with Muse because it may not have some feature you rely on. If I recall correctly, Muse was a much more general template-based thing, a bit like Wix, which is a level below what we're doing today. So you can do more than that. You can essentially produce any website through Quark, but there comes a point in terms of complexity where it's going to be faster to go a different route.
So this goes back to sort of a question about the long scroll that we had just a few minutes ago. And of course, styles and approaches change and evolve. But one person is asking about the advantages or disadvantages of having one long page scroll as opposed to architecting the site to go to, other pages, other subpages. Martin, what's your take on that today?
Yeah, I always feel the long scroll pages are a bit short in information. So a lot of product sites have got that. It's very popular, but then when I want more information, there's nothing there. So my personal take is I think it's great to have a front page which is a long scroll, and that's when you use anchors rather than pages. So your links are to anchors on the page rather than to other pages. But often you still then want to go to the support site to download the updates and so on. So I think it is cleaner. It's easier to find your way around. You can just keep scrolling. But if it's at the cost of actually including the information you need, then it's gone too far. So use within reason, great. And particularly for this kind of site where you want to do it very quickly, it could be the answer. Often you'll end up having to put in some other pages as well just to be able to give supporting information.
Question about GDPR compliance and whether or not these types of websites would conform to that.
Okay, so GDPR is about European Union management of personal data, and essentially you can't gather data about somebody without their permission. Now, the sites that Quark produces out of the box do not require you to ask that because they don't use that kind of cookieing. If you start putting in custom HTML, for example, an e-commerce site, then very quickly you'll find you have to do that. And again, there's lots of snippets you can find to do a pop-up, which you'll do in custom HTML to say, do you accept cookies? But for a straight Quark site, out of the box, using only Quark's own features, you will not need to do that.
Okay, great. I'm just scrolling through. I want to make sure I've gotten to everybody's questions. We've got 10 more minutes of Martin's time, so please continue to populate either the chat or the Q&A so that we can get to those. Again, we've got questions about accessing the recording and the tutorial. So again, these will be posted later today, probably within the next hour or so. Because it's been so popular. So we want to get that out to you so you can access it sooner rather than later. We also will put out an email blast. That may not happen until tomorrow, but we will put out an email blast to all attendees and registrants with links to the recording, with links to the tutorial, and some information about the current sales that we're having, because I am getting some questions here about upgrading. Folks are asking about upgrading to QuarkXPress 2022, which does have, you know, all of these capabilities that Martin has been showing and discussing today. Couple of other questions have come in. Let's see. Again, I think this was maybe a follow-up to GDPR. It says really no call for Google Analytics in the code.
Unless you put Google Analytics in, it doesn't. Google doesn't put its analytics into the system. So you can do that. You can do that as custom HTML, or you can paste it into the header. But if you don't do it, it's not there. I think GDPR is widely misunderstood, and the internet industry has been a bit hostile towards it. The times when every time you go on a website, it pops up with yet another thing saying, do you accept cookies? It only has to do it once, or maybe once every 3 months or something. But many websites, every single time you go on there, then it's used as a trick to get you to click for sending you updates. But if you don't put Google Analytics into custom HTML or in some other way, then it's not there. Of course, if you do put it in, then you're going to have a cookie thing. But in most cases, there's no reason to. Most Google Analytics, which is collected, is never used by anybody but Google. You can put a website up, you do not owe Google anything.
Okay, does the Quark web function include an uploader, or is that a separate app?
You need a separate uploader because how you upload depends on what you're uploading to. Now, your web space that you buy, which I talked about earlier, will almost certainly include an uploader, but after you've used it 3 or 4 times, you'll decide that it's way too clunky. So the one I use is called CyberDuck. They actually have one where CyberDuck's free, but they want you to make a donation. They have a paid one which turns your own Finder or directory on your computer into a way to upload stuff. That's slicker, though if you don't do it very often, it's not a big issue. But you do need a URL, you need web space, you need an FTP uploader or the uploading facilities of your own web space. To test it, QuarkXPress and your browser are fine. To get it onto the web, like the one I've been showing you, then you need some kind of an uploader, often called FTP, stands for File Transfer Protocol, and then it will work.
Will the sites be HTTPS? The ones developed with QuarkXPress?
Only if you make them so. So HTTP and HTTPS are things that you set with your web provider software. What Quark uploads is equally going to work for either of them. You don't need HTTPS for this kind of site because it's only giving content. HTTPS is only really needed for sites where it's asking for information like logins or passwords and so on. There's nothing from these kinds of sites which requires a security protocol, unless obviously you're uploading very confidential information.
Okay. Give me just a second here to scroll through. So we have had some questions about people trying to upgrade to 2022. With this latest release, we did change the activation, the login process. I'm wondering if Lohit or Sadesh are on the call and if they would be able to chime in. We've got some folks asking for help. I can certainly put you in contact with tech support so that we can make sure we get you upgraded and access to the latest release. So Michelle Anderson, I see you on and you have one of those questions. If anybody else has been having a problem upgrading, I would say go to quark.com and go through the chat so that we can help get that corrected for you. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left. Any questions you want to ask Martin about quick and easy websites, or Martin, anything else you want to add?
I just show you the site we created. This is on HTTPS, and you'll see it looks exactly the same. There's no difference at all as far as the operation of that site's concerned.
Okay, great. Last call for questions. Again, the next session is May 12th. And again, following our session today, I'd say within the next hour or so, we will get this webinar posted for you on the QuarkXPress YouTube channel. You can also access that via the social media icons at the bottom of our homepage. Doesn't seem to be any other. Oh, one last question. Okay, thanks, Rob. So what is the advantage of fixed over flex or vice versa?
Flex, you make it once, it changes to whatever device that the person is using. Fixed, you make several layouts which you'll link through content linking. You haven't got to redo every single one of them. And then it will choose the layout closest to the device you're using. If you want your layout to look exactly the way you designed it, fixed is better, because when it starts moving stuff around, as on this website, clearly it's not as nice looking now. In fact, Mars on this particular thing works quite nicely, but it might not do. Things can get in the way of other things. You have got no control over how it then responds to somebody else's device. With fixed, you control everything. So the Rolls Royce is fixed, but Rolls Royce result requires a Rolls Royce level of investment.
And there you have it. All right, I just want to thank everybody for joining today. We really appreciate it. Oh, one last question, if you can hang on. It says alt text is very important for those who are impaired. For PDF, there is a way to put alt text to an image. Is this also possible in HTML publications?
I believe it is. I'm just checking right now to find the place. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Because when you look for it, you can never find it. It should be the same thing which allows you to add alt text. Should do it for the website as well.
Okay.
We might need an image for this.
All right. Richard, if we need to follow up, please reach out to us via chat on our website. Again, thanks everybody so much. This was awesome to have so much interaction, so many great questions. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all of you. Join us again on May 12th. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out if you need anything. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day or evening.